to Real People, Real Life.
Joseph, well, I appreciate you coming out. August 24th, 1997. That's a big day for you. That kind of changed your life, took you down a path that you never expected coming. And you woke up in the morning and you're being charged with first-degree murder. How did that day start?
It just started like a normal day, summertime, just what I had been doing with my friends throughout the summer, hanging out. And that night we decided to go out again and hang out and just have a good time.
Yeah.
And it ended in a nightmare.
You guys had a bonfire going, barbecue, hanging out with buddies. You were 20 years old.
Yes.
Did you grow up in a pretty decent family?
I did.
Yeah, I was, read some of your stuff, kind of grew up in the church, right?
I did.
Yeah. Father, mom.
Yes, mom and dad always there, brought us up and, going to church, and my siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, and I'm the oldest one.
So you're with your friends, you're 20 years old, you're having the time of your life, it's summertime. You guys doing a little underage drinking.
Yeah. And
decide, hey, I got an idea. Let's drive and go down to get some food.
Yeah. And it was already after 1 a.m. It was like 1:30.
Nothing ever happens good at that time.
And we had even said, let's go to TJ, That's where we would go because we were under 21, so we'd go down there. But we ended up going just to get some food, and it turned out to a whole lot more than just getting some food that night.
You were pretty drunk, too.
I was super drunk.
So walk me through leaving the barbecue, driving down to the food place. This was in North County, right?
Yeah, here in
Escondido. And you go to the restaurant, ready to order food.
Yeah. And I was there in line to get some food, and one of my friends that I was with had already ordered his food, kind of standing off to the side, and all because somebody flipped up his food tray. Next thing you know, I turned to the side, and I got hit by multiple people, and everybody started fighting inside the restaurant.
Wasn't there like a club or something nearby, and a bunch of people from the club had come over to this restaurant to get some food, or just a bunch of people drunk?
Yeah, and I didn't know about it, but I later on learned that across the street there was a nightclub there, and so what happened was a lot of them from there had come over to the restaurant as well, and so the restaurant was packed, and that's when chaos broke out.
So basically a brawl. How many people were involved?
I was super drunk. I know there's a lot of people. It happened very fast. I know as I was standing inside the restaurant, when I got hit, I got knocked to the ground, got kicked to the ground. I eventually fought my way out of the restaurant. And when I went out to the parking lot, the fight continued. There was a lot of emotion. I was super drunk. I was super angry from getting hit and beat up.
You got your friends are in the fight. You get what's called a mob mentality. Everyone is in, so just gets more escalated.
Yeah, and I could honestly say, like, some of it's a blur. I don't know. I remember being out there looking at everything going on, but I don't remember getting from one place to the other. But I did get to the spot where it got even worse.
So you got outside. You went back in to the fight? Or the fight came outside with you guys?
The fight came outside, and that's where the fight continued.
What happened next?
And next, I remember there was a lot of weapons involved. Thank God there was no guns that got pulled out that night. Yeah. If it was happened today, I'm sure multiple guns would get pulled out. Back then, there was knives, there was belts, there was anything you can grab getting swung around. And unfortunately, somebody with our group had worked construction, and somebody had grabbed a weapon, or they grabbed a sledgehammer. And I ended up grabbing it, and I did hit the person twice with it. And when you look back and I share that, it sounds like, well, how did you know that somebody got seriously injured? But that's just how super drunk I was, and it happened so quick. I had no idea, like, it was this serious.
And this is a street fight. This is not an organized fight. Everyone's emotions are going crazy. People are just completely drunk, completely freaking out, fighting. Everything's going on.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time to actually think.
And it happened so quick, and soon as
you're 20 years old, not much thinking going on at 20 years old, especially when you're drunk.
Yeah, drunk. And I never got involved in gangs. I never got involved in drugs. But I did do, I was working out at the time, and I had done 3 cycles of steroids.
Oh, brother.
And I was going through a cycle at that time. And so that didn't help. You know, it only intensified the rage, the anger. And so I don't blame it on the alcohol. I don't blame it on the steroids, but it did have an effect on my terrible decision making that evening.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So fight either starts coming to an end or you and your buddy decide to bail.
Yeah. So there was 5 of us that jumped in the truck. My friend, he got in the driver's seat. It was his truck. I got in the passenger. 3 other ones jumped in the back. As soon as we pulled off into the street, all kinds of cops run us. My friend looks at me and says, "Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to go in for a DUI." Because
that's about what you thought it was going to be.
That's what we thought it was. And but they pulled us out, had us there at the curb, had us at gunpoint, had us there for a while, and they would eventually take us into the Eskimo Police Department, separate us, had us in our own cells. And about 12 hours later is when they would call me up to the detective's room, and I would find out what happened.
Now, what was your mindset? So you're sitting for 12 hours, you're sobering up.
Yeah.
Still no idea what happened. It was just a fight.
Yeah.
And now they're pulling you up to the detectives. What's going through your mind? You're 20 years old. What is going through your mind? I'm going to get arrested for DUI, or I'm going to get charged for fighting.
Yeah, I had no idea what was coming my way. Just knew I was involved in a fight. I've been super drunk. I mean, I was sitting in that cell, and the worst I had before that was a ticket, parking. And so I had no idea what was coming. You know, they probably prepared us with that Carl's Jr. they gave us, but.
And you walk into this office, you sit down, expecting to be charged with disorderly contact, maybe a fight, maybe not a DUI, but maybe public drunkenness. And what does the detective tell you?
He said, "Mr. Cardoza, do you know what you're here for?" There was, I think there was 3 detectives in the room. They said, "Mr. Cardoza, do you know what you're here for?" I said, "No," because I didn't. And they said, "You're here for a homicide. Somebody died last night." And I couldn't believe it. It was a shock. I went numb. I initially denied it. They asked me questions. I said, "No, I didn't hit the victim." They continued to ask me questions. And eventually I broke down. I didn't point the finger at anybody. I didn't say, "Oh, he did it. I saw him do this or that." But I ended up letting him know I did hit that person twice with the sledgehammer. And yeah, it was, I still remember being in that room.
That's something you're never going to forget.
No.
It's also something based on the way you grew up that happens to other people.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like you were around violence. It's not like you were hanging out in gangs. You weren't in gangs. You're just with your buddies, doing a little underage drinking, which a lot of people do, get into a little fight here and there. And next thing you know, you're facing something. It's like a horror movie.
Yeah. And I was 20 years old in August. I was going to turn 21 in November. And that was less than 2 years after I had taken my first drink of alcohol on a New Year's Eve, a little less than 2 years before that. Because before I was always the sober one, going out with friends, going out with cousins. I'd have my water. I'd be the designated driver. I just chose not to drink. I didn't want to get involved in that. But I took that one drink and I liked the feeling. And from there, it's not like I could drink every day, but from there I started going out and partying, drinking, having a good time. And so it was like a downward spiral. I began to just go out more. And I was, in the world's eyes, I was doing okay because I had a job at UPS. I was going to Palomar College. I was still going to church.
You're doing all the right things.
Yeah. And even though sometimes I'd go to church and my parents said, "Did you go?" I said, "Yeah," but I was really sleeping in the parking lot hungover. And so I knew that it was, I was not going in the right direction.
So you're faced with this charge. You're numb. It's almost a nightmare. You're hoping you wake up, I would think.
Yeah.
At what point did you have to make that phone call to your parents?
Well, they had heard that I had been in some trouble. And after I spoke to the detectives, they allowed me to make a call home. And when I made that call home, my dad answered the phone. I just said, "Dad, I'm sorry." And he said, "Son, I love you." I'll never forget that call. Because even though I had done the worst thing in my life, and he still loved me. And he was there for me. My family was there for me. And I'll never forget that call. And I'm thankful that they showed that love. And that was the way I was brought up. And I'll never forget that call. And it helped me a lot.
Gave you strength.
Yeah, it did. And for me, it was just a reminder of God's love, unconditional love. Like, even though I had done something terrible, that he still loved me the same. And so that helped me a lot. And later on, I'd be transferred to the Vista County Jail, the 5 of us. And then we'd be separated and be assigned to different cells. And
at this point, you're thinking, my life's over.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend the rest of my life in jail.
Yeah. Because, we'd find out that our charges were first-degree murder, 27 years to life. And so our initial charges, we didn't know if we were ever going to come home. And for me, looking back, I was assigned to cell number 13. I still remember. I went to that cell, 20 years old, carrying my mattress in there. I lost everything. Now I'm just down to what the county jail gives me there, my blues, whatever they gave me there. And carrying my mat into the dorm. They said go to 13. I went there. There was already two men in there, so that I had to go up to cell number 32. I walked in there, and I saw some verses on the wall, and I saw, oh, this is like jailhouse religion, But it come to find out that was that person. God used that person to really help me a lot, and I still have. I keep in touch with him today. Yeah.
So they eventually lowered the charges because it wasn't premeditated. It was a fight that ended badly, really badly. And they plea bargained with you.
Yeah. So they, if we were going to go to trial, they were going to try to give us second-degree murder, which would be 15 to life. But they offered us a deal for voluntary manslaughter because it wasn't premeditated. It was without malice. It was heat of the moment, passion fight that broke out, that got way out of hand. So they offered us a deal for 12 years, which was voluntary manslaughter plus a 1-year enhancement for the weapon. And we accepted that deal because even though it was going to be a long time, we knew that we had a date to look forward to eventually come home. And so we accepted that deal, and that happened August 24th. We accepted the deal in May of 1998.
And you're at county the whole time.
At county jail. And we could have been transferred right after that to the state prison, but we wanted to stay closer to family for a little while longer because we didn't know where we were going to get sent to. So from May, and then we stayed there until August, and then that's when we got our sentence, and then we'd eventually be shipped out shortly after that.
How long were you in the correctional facility before you started to acclimate, before you said, okay, I can do this?
Yeah.
Because they always talk about the first night, where you're doing, here it goes, the clock started.
Well, for me, it started in the county jail because they, my first cellmate was a Christian, Hispanic. I'm Hispanic. My dad's Hispanic. My mom's white. But as soon as you get there, they put you with your race. So I got assigned with the Hispanic, Tony Martinez, and he was the only Christian Hispanic in that dorm. And they saw that I was spending a lot of time with him. A few days later, they said, hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to run with us, or are you going to be a Christian? I made a phone call to my dad. I said, Dad, what should I do? He just said, son, you do what you know is right. The next day, I said, I'm a Christian, because I was a Christian, but I went away.
Right.
I fell away from it, but that Tony's the one that led me back to the Lord, and said, God, please forgive me for what I've done. Please help me.
And Tony was an inmate, correct?
Tony was an inmate, and he was only a couple years older than me.
What was he in for?
He ended up getting 6 years. I don't know his exact charges, but he ended up doing about 6 years, and he's doing good with his family today as well. And so I had to make a decision. I made that decision, and they never did anything to me physically, but they would say things to see how I'm going to respond, because they see a lot of fake people.
Sure.
They can read you, and they see a lot of people come through the system in and out. They say that this is what they want to do, come back out here, they fall back into the drugs, they fall back into the old ways, and next thing you know, they're right back in there. So that's where my foundation was built, in the county jail, because wherever you go, it follows you. People know, like, hey, I was with him over there, and he acted like this, and he said he was this, but now he's acting this way. But this is who I was, and I followed my belief and my faith, and God protected me, took care of me, and eventually those same people in the Vista County Jail before their before their court hearings, they would say, hey, can you pray for me? And I built a good relationship with everybody in there. I got along with everybody in there, and so that's where it started, and it carried along as I was transferred to different prisons here in Southern California.
Did any of the people you were with at county end up at the prisons that you were at?
Yeah, so there was different people that I was with in the county, and then I ran into them at different state prisons as well.
So what was it like? Did you profess your Christianity in prison?
In prison as well, yes.
So you said, "Hey, listen, I'm aligned with the people of faith, with the Christians." And
Yes.
here I'm with the Mexicans, or I'm with the blacks. You were with the Christians.
Yes.
Is that is that a segregation in prison where they'll say, "Hey, come with us. You're a religious guy. Come hang with us," or
Yeah, but if that's what you really want to do, they're going to respect you. But if they see that you're just professing it, but you're not living it, then there could be consequences. But yeah, I came to the Lord that first night in the county jail. I came back to the Lord because Tony led me back to the Lord and said, "God, please forgive me for what I've done." And I cried out to God for help. I wasn't crying to God to say, "Take me out of this place," even though I knew there was going to be consequences. But I did ask God for mercy that I could have a date to come home, and thank God we got that. We pled guilty, and I knew I had a date to go forward to. And the first prison that I was at, because I got transferred to George Bailey for the weekend, which is another jail down in San Diego. So they held me there for the weekend. Then I was transferred to Donovan State Prison, and it's a reception yard. They just keep you there for a little while, and then from there they're going to decide where they're going to move you. You could possibly stay there in Donovan, which I was hoping for because be close here to home, family, San Diego. And in Donovan, when I got from the reception, they moved me to another yard, and on that yard is where when I had gone to the chapel there, and I got baptized there.
really?
I got baptized there at the chapel, and I remember there in the chapel and came up out of the water, and the brothers were singing, "I have decided to follow Jesus." And then that same night they called me and they said, "Cardoza, pack up your stuff. You're leaving tomorrow morning to Calipatria State Prison."
Did they have a baptism there?
Yeah. And
Was it maximum security?
I was level 3.
Which is explain the levels.
So level 4 is the highest level there, and I was level 3, and then there's level 2, which is like dorm living, and then there's level 1 that's going to be last. So I started off level 3 in cell living, and so I got transferred out to at Calipatria. They had level 4, but I was on the level 3 yard. And I remember getting on the bus that day, leaving from San Diego, and the song. They had the bus driver had the radio on it. It said, "This has to be the saddest day of my life." And I still remember that song, being shackled up and heading out to the desert,
Wow.
And I don't forget it. But in my mind, I was like, man, because that prison had a reputation for not being good. No prison's good, but some have a reputation for being worse than others. And it didn't have a good reputation. And I just remember thinking that, God's with me wherever I go. That there's verses that say that He will never leave me nor forsake me. And I thought about Psalms 23, "The Lord is my shepherd." And I remember getting off that bus in Calipatria State Prison and walking onto the yard, and them having us at gunpoint, up there in the towers ready to shoot at us if anything happened. And, eventually things did happen where they had to shoot, But I was young, and I remember one...
Not that you were involved in, though.
No, I was not involved in...
Because you got out on good behavior, right? You served 10 years.
10 years and 3 months. And as long as I didn't get in any trouble, I had to do 85% of that 12-year sentence. And, wherever I went, God would use people and say, "You know what? Something's going to happen right now. Better just to stay inside." And they weren't believers, but they were people that I had a good relationship with them. They would, even though they weren't believers, they would look out for me. And God used those people to say, "You know what? It's better to stay inside." Even though there were times where I was outside and things did happen, God always protected me. And so I was at that from Donovan. I was there for a couple months. Went out to Calipatria for about a year, which is out in Imperial County. And then after that, they transferred me to Ironwood State Prison, which is another level 3. And then I was there for almost 2 years. And then from there, I got my points lowered to go to level 2, which was where I finished my last little more than 5 years in dorm living.
Okay. And what's dorm living like?
Dorm living is you're in a gym, bunks all over the place. And those dorms were originally designed for 120 people. By the time I left, those dorms had 340 inmates.
Oh, man.
And they had triple bunks, and it was packed. And I preferred the cell, because in a cell, at least it's you and your cellmate, you and your cellie, and you have some quiet time. Whereas in the dorm, it's constantly noise, and you don't have that
300 different personalities.
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
Yeah.
More opportunity for trouble.
Yeah.
Which you're trying to stay out of because you're trying to get that clock reduced.
Yeah.
Well, I was reading your story, and you took this situation of being incarcerated and you did something with it.
Yes.
Tell the audience what you did during your 10 years, 3 months there. What did you achieve?
So, because as I shared with you, I was going to Palomar College. I had just started I was going to start my third. I finished 2 years there, and so I was working towards my AA degree. And so, when I got to the level 2, my last 5.5 years, that's when they had opportunity to do distance learning through Palo Verde's Community College out there in Blythe. And so I was able to take the few courses that I needed to get my my AA degree. And the nice thing was at that place. Actually, I'm sorry. This was at Ironwood where I was able to get my AA degree.
Okay.
And I was the GED clerk, so I had the opportunity to. I helped the students, the inmates, with math, and so I was able to get my AA there. And so the nice thing was because they would have GED graduations, and then when I got my AA, my teacher there, she wanted me to be a part of the ceremony so that I can encourage others to, hey, don't just stop at the GED, let's go further. And so at the graduation, when they had the ceremony, I was able to receive my AA degree there through Palomar College because I finished it through Palo Verde's. And then when I got transferred to Chuckawalla Valley State Prison, I ended up getting another job there as the GED clerk. So I would help students out there, inmates out there with getting their GED, preparing them.
Helping people.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to be involved in the GED classes and helping those guys get their education. And a lot of them got their GEDs. A lot of them went on to get their AA degrees through the distance learning. And I also had the opportunity to start my bachelor's degree, which through Moody Bible Institute. So it was all distance learning through the Moody Bible Institute. They would send me the classes. I'd take it there. My GED teacher would, he'd supervise me when I took the tests, and then I'd take the test and get sent back in. And then my aunt and uncle had paid for my classes so that I could take this, take these courses through the distance learning. And I almost finished it in there, and then eventually I finished it out here.
And you ended up with your bachelor's.
I ended up in 2012. I ended up receiving my Bachelor's of Science in Biblical Studies through the Moody Bible Institute. I didn't get to attend the ceremony, but I did receive my degree in 2012.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, we talk about living a life of purpose or a job that you love. And I tell people, if you do a job that you serve people, you will find fulfillment in that job.
Yes.
And you found a job in prison where you served people.
Yeah.
You got respect because of it. I'm sure you found fulfillment by helping people and seeing these people that no education to get their GED. A couple people or a handful of people or maybe more got their AA.
Yeah.
You end up getting your bachelor's shortly after getting out. That was a great day, 10 years, 3 months, when they say, hey, Joseph, you're done.
Yeah.
Did it feel like 10 years and 3 months, or did it feel like 100?
Yeah, it was a long time, but I really looked forward to that day. You know, as it got closer. And one other thing to go back to, the other thing besides those GED classes that I got to be really involved in was the chapel services there. And I was young, but I had an opportunity to do a lot of Bible studies and a lot of the services. God gave me opportunities to share with a lot of men in there. And that's one thing that I'm very thankful for, that, you know, and like I shared with you going back, like they'll listen to you if that's what you're living and that's who you are.
Authenticity.
Yes.
People can see authenticity.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our faults and nobody's perfect. We all fall short, but they see that, hey, this is what he's going for. This is who he wants to be.
I like how you said it. I had never heard this, but you said jailhouse religion.
Yeah.
Right. You know, all of a sudden you find God because you find yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah.
You lived it.
Yeah.
They saw the authenticity. You weren't just putting up a show for a couple of years hoping to get a free pass.
No.
You did the time.
Yeah, and the 10 years that I was in there, you know, I seen many go in there, do well, and then they come back like, hey, man, what happened? And, you know, just continue to come back out and make bad decisions. We all struggle, and every situation is different, but I would see that often. But then I also have a lot of friends, a lot of Christian brothers that I still keep in touch with today that are doing really well.
That's fantastic. I like the idea that there was the tools in the prisons for actually rehabilitation.
Yeah.
You know, this is something I think people need to hear. You have to make that choice, though. They're not going to force you through these things.
No.
You have to say, I want to do this. I want to get my AA. I want to study to get my bachelor's. I want to be part of the chapel. I want to put Bible studies together. I want to help people in math. All of these things, it's a choice you have to make.
Yes.
They don't just force you to do that.
And I came home in November 2007, so things have probably changed. I don't know how the system is now, but back then they had different trades like HVAC. They had that. The people take courses, and I know people that did well in there that came out here, and now they're being productive in what they learned, a different trade that they learned inside prison.
Yeah, we have talked to people. One of my guests who learned HVAC in prison.
Yeah,
and that's what I think it should be. They need to give people a chance to make it on the outside.
yes.
Now, also talking with you and reading your story, just because you get out, society still makes it difficult.
Yes.
I'm a firm believer is, look, you do the crime, you do the time. When the time is done and you've paid your penance to society, they should expunge the record. It's insane where you learn HVAC, then you go decide I'm going to become a contractor. And then the contractor state license board, you have to disclose your felonies. And then you have to petition. And they may not let you get your license. They may not let you be productive. You got out and you got work. You worked for a blueprint company.
Yeah, 4 months after I got out, a friend gave me an opportunity to start as a driver for a blueprint company.
Yeah, so a basic bottom of the level job, but hey, something to do.
Yes.
But you rose up in the ranks there.
Yeah, so less than 2 years after I started there, he ended up getting promoted to another. He was the office manager there, satellite office here in San Diego. He ended up going up to the corporate office in Irvine, and so they asked me if I would like to take over as office manager. So they promoted me to the office manager there, satellite office, like 5 of us there, and so from end of 2009 all the way until 2020. When it permanently shut down due to COVID in April, I was the office manager there.
That's a good long run. Nobody works anywhere that long anymore.
Yeah, so I was there for a good 12 years.
And you probably learned a lot in leadership, in management.
Yeah, a lot of communication, customer service. And so it helped me for what eventually I would go on to after that.
So after COVID hits, destroys the whole world, nobody knows what's going to happen, things start settling back out. The world comes back alive. You decide to take it to another level and get a professional license.
Yes. So actually, it was in 2017 that I had studied, prepared, and took my real estate license tests, and
passed.
I passed it. And after I passed it down there in Mira Mesa, you take the test. And then once you're done, they give you a paper, and the paper is going to say pass. Or if you pass it, it's going to say congratulations. If you fail it, they'll give you your score and how you got to get at least 70%. So I got my paper. I opened it. It said congratulations, but we're going to have to something about doing a further review, and that further
at the actual test.
So because you have to do for your real estate, you have to do your background check, and so they had that in the system already from my record. And so even though I got good news, I also got bad news.
You didn't realize you were still incarcerated. The system was following you.
It was.
It does. Any of these professional licenses, it follows you.
Yeah.
And you had to fight.
I did.
Tell me that story.
So I got a letter in the mail shortly after that stating that you've been denied your real estate license and you have 30 days to appeal it. So basically, some might get it and be like, oh man, I'm not going to get it. But I didn't want to give up. I prepared, studied, and I wanted to keep going for it. So I appealed it, and that was in 2017. In May, I think, is when I passed the test. And it went all the way to June, where eventually I would stand before a judge for my license. And before the judge, though, I had to go to one-on-one investigation, background hearings. They would ask me all kinds of questions to
make you relive the whole thing.
Exactly. And eventually I had to go stand before a judge down in San Diego. The real estate lawyer that was there strongly against me. My wife went
So an attorney for the real estate board,
Exactly.
the licensing board,
Yes.
and just basically saying absolutely not.
Yeah. And I didn't have a lawyer. My wife was with me, but she was in the other room. And so it was just the judge, the one typing there in the courtroom, the real estate attorney strongly against me and myself. And I had to present my case, and he presented his case, and he was hammering me and just telling the judge why I shouldn't get it. And before that hearing, I'll just share with you as well that a former judge, he prepared me for that hearing. He was actually a lawyer. He was a lawyer when I was going through my. He was an attorney when I was going through my case, and he eventually became a judge. He knew my family. He wasn't my lawyer for my case, but he gave I had a public defender. You know, some are very expensive. We couldn't get one, but I had a very good public defender that a family friend had referred to us, and she did really well for me. And this lawyer that knew my family, he gave her advice as well. So he was well aware of my case, and he knew my situation. Eventually, he became a judge there at Vista. And when I came home, he'd see me at the gym there at LA Fitness and always talk to me and say how happy he was to see that I'm doing well. And then when I told him about getting my license, he told me, this is what you need. This is what you can do to prepare for that hearing.
Another guardian angel
Yeah.
in your ring.
So he really helped me to
have a judge in your corner.
Get some things organized as far as showing my family, showing my work history, showing my education, putting it all in a folder, having a copy for myself, giving one to the judge, giving one to the real estate attorney, so that when they're there at the hearing, everybody has that and they can see it. And so the judge the hearing was a good 2 hours. I remember that attorney asking me a question saying, do you still hang around with the friends that you got in trouble with? And I said, yes. And he told the judge, see, he hasn't changed. He's still hanging around with the same people. And I said, well, you know what? Just like when I was in prison, there's a lot of evil, there's a lot of bad, but I always try to be a good influence to people. I try not to let their ways affect the way I'm going to be and how I'm going to carry myself. And just because today I keep in touch with those friends doesn't mean I'm just going to go along with whatever. And they're doing great as well. You know, they have families, they have jobs. And so they've moved on as well. They didn't go back like so many others have. Mm-hmm. And so the judge had 60 days to decide about if she was going to deny me completely, if she was going to give me a restrictive license, means that if somebody looks up my license, it'll disclose my record, or a regular license.
What did you think when the hearing was over, when you walked out of the courtroom, walked up to your wife? I'm sure she said, how did you think it went?
Yeah.
What did you tell her?
I had a good feeling because the court reporter that was typing there, she's when I was getting my stuff and I was getting ready to go, she just told me, you did really good. You had a really good
You were
hearing.
authentic.
I think so. Yeah.
You believed it. They believed you.
Yeah.
Did they believe you? Did you get a license?
Yeah. So within that 60 days, towards the end of that 60 days, I received a letter in the mail in June of 2018.
How long did it take you to open it?
I opened it quick. I was excited, and it says that you've been granted a regular license based upon the criteria for rehabilitation within the real estate. And so the judge, she didn't deny me, she didn't get me restricted. She recommended I get a regular license, and the board approved it. And I got my license in June of 2018 while I was still working as the office manager. And then in 2019 January is when I hung up my license for the first time. So I was doing real estate part-time as I was continuing to be an office manager. And then in April 2020 is when I got pushed full-time to go do real estate because of the business shutting down.
Well, and then COVID presented an amazing opportunity in the real estate market that nobody saw coming.
Yeah.
Was it 2021 was a stellar year for real estate, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, that first year, 2019, I did 2 homes. Mm-hmm. And I'll just share with you that my first client, I had an open house by myself for the first time in February, a month later. And a lady had walked in. She was a retired chiropractor. And I told her I'm a new agent. This is my first open house. And she gave me a chance. She had already bought multiple homes. She had plenty of people that she could use, but she gave me an opportunity to help her. Even though I was brand new, and I told her, I said, I'm just starting, but if I don't know something, I'll find out. Because my mentor that has been doing it for many years, he was there, and that first sale, my first sales, he helped me a lot as far as getting things done.
Got a lot of people in your corner.
Yeah.
They just keep lining up.
Yes.
That's fantastic. You're blessed.
So since then, after those 4 years, because every 4 years you have to renew your license. So I've renewed it, and this past January has been 6 years since I've been active. I'm not one of those top agents doing all kinds of deals, but I do average six sales a year.
Mm-hmm.
My best year was 10. I closed on 10.
Well, this has been a tough year for real estate.
It has.
Interest rates at an not an all-time high, of course not. But compared to what people have been used to, and all these people locked in at 2%, 2 and 3% interest rates, they don't want to move, so the inventory is really low.
But I will share, thank God, that this year it's been off to a good start.
Good.
I had a friend that had reached out back in 2020. He reached out to me, my partner, Benny Charles, who I work with at Pivot Real Estate, and he reached out to us because he was moving from Virginia to come here. So we helped him get a home in 2020, and recently they were moving again. So he reached out to us, and we just closed on that home last week. So that was a good start. And then yesterday, one of my clients, I had sold their home in their condo back in August, and there was multiple offers on a home that they really loved. And the agent called me yesterday and said that they've gone with our offer.
Oh, fantastic.
And he even told me, he said, your offer wasn't the highest offer, but we have a good feeling for you guys.
Honesty is critical in sales. You're in sales.
Yes.
And honesty is we had a podcast a few weeks ago about sales and what that's all about. Authenticity comes up. Honesty. People can see if you're just lying to them, if you're not sincere, if you're just hungry for the sale, desperation, it stinks, and they don't want to give you the business. They don't trust you on one of the biggest purchases they'll ever make in, in their life.
Yes.
So you get out of prison, you find out you're kind of still in prison when you try to get your license. Had to go see a judge again. I'll guarantee you didn't want to go in a courtroom.
No.
So you're standing in front of a judge. You got an amazing blessing by actually having a judge friend help you review through the eyes of a judge. That's huge, better than an attorney, because he knows what the judge wants to hear. You win the case, you get an unrestricted license. This is great. You also are a guy who loves sports.
Yes.
Your dad and I believe your grandfather were coaches.
My dad,
uncle.
Multiple uncles.
Yeah. So growing up, you had your dad as a coach. You're involved in youth sports, and you want to coach.
Yes.
Things are going great. So, hey, let's go start coaching.
Yeah.
What happened there when you get the offer? You get an offer to be an assistant coach, don't you?
Yeah. So I started coaching our boys in 2013. And
you have two boys.
We do have two boys, yes. And I also going back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I came home in 2007. I got married December 2008 to my wife Sunny, and God blessed us with our firstborn son in 2009. And that was, I thought prison was gonna be the hardest thing I ever went through, but losing my firstborn son was the hardest thing I've ever gone through.
What happened?
In prison you have a lot of time to think, and I always wanted the name Josiah. And my wife had some complications through her pregnancy. At 20 weeks, they had told her she's gonna have to go to bed rest down to UCSD if she wants to continue the pregnancy, because they try to push us to terminate, but we didn't want to do that. We put it in God's hands. And she at 20 weeks, they said if she made it, she had the complications about 15 weeks. And they said if you make it to 20 weeks, then we're going to recommend you go to UCSD, and you're going to have to be on bed rest until you go into labor. You're going to eventually go into labor because you're going to get like a fever, and you're going to have a C-section. And so she went to UCSD, and she stayed there for 10 weeks. And little past 30 weeks is when she went into labor. And Josiah was born on June 3rd, 2009 at around 10 o'clock. And it was the next day at 4 o'clock, on June 4th, and his lungs were underdeveloped. He was having complications. They had him hooked up to the machines and trying to get things going. His lungs were just underdeveloped, and things just didn't go good. And eventually the doctors just told us that he wasn't going to make it. And so he passed away on June 4th, 2009. And I know that he can't come back to us, but one day I'll go back to him, because that's our faith that he's in heaven. And that's what we hold on to. And so that's the hardest thing that I've ever gone through, is carrying his casket and having to bury him.
It's the hardest thing for any parent.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't understand why. Sometimes I would think like it's because of what I did. I struggled with it for a while.
You blamed yourself.
Yeah. Because, you know, what I was involved in, taking somebody's life in the fight. And so I had a hard time, and I asked, like, man, God, did this happen because of what I did? You know, and my son. And it's something that still comes to mind, you know, as time has gone on. I know that God's forgiven me, and I know my son's in heaven. And a year later, he blessed us with our son Duke in July 2010. And then he blessed us the next year with Joa in 2011. And so now we have, you know, two boys that are now 14 and 13 years old. Mm-hmm. And I also have a stepdaughter who's 30 years old. And she recently had a baby boy. So we have a grandson. He's 2.5.
Grandpa.
And then she just had a daughter. So we have a granddaughter as well.
You know, I have some grandkids, and one of them is Duke.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know any other kids named Duke. And when I read your son is Duke, I said, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So my wife, you know, when she thought, she asked about the name Duke, and I liked it. I looked it up. I saw the meaning. It means to be like a leader. Mm-hmm. And so we went Duke. His name is Duke Joseph Cardoza. And then we had Joa Pierce Cardoza.
So you're blessed.
Yes.
With two healthy boys.
Yes. And going back to that coaching, before I left, you know, I grew up playing soccer for many years, played club soccer, played high school soccer, where my dad was my assistant coach at Eskimo High School. My uncle Johnny was the head coach of Eskimo High School. In prison, you know, they didn't have weights at the time. They took them away, but we did a lot of exercise in there, pull-ups, push-ups, dips. They also had, at my last prison where I was at for 5.5 years, they had a good soccer league.
Oh.
Played a lot of soccer in there. Before I left, I helped my dad coach some of the, like my younger brother's team, and I liked helping the kids out. And so I knew that's something I wanted to continue to do. And so after our boys were born, and once they got to about 3.5, I started coaching at the indoor at Kit Carson. And so I coached them there for a couple of years. And then we went over to Francis Ryan Park here in Escondido, and I coached them in the recreational program. And then eventually I helped them there in with the Escondido Heat. I was as an assistant with their competitive program.
Are they big soccer fans?
Yeah, they're more. They love to play more. Mm-hmm. They do have. They like to watch it.
Well, we got a team now.
Yeah, so they're gonna be following them. As far as the professional league, I know the youngest one he likes Real Madrid, mm-hmm. and our oldest one he's a Man City.
Okay, go Italy.
Yeah.
So this coaching is a passion.
It is.
You're coaching your boys. What a great thing for a father to do.
Yes.
Young boys need strong male figures.
Yes.
Don't see that often in society. They've dismissed the importance of men. I think that's starting to change. They're starting to see how important men are in their kids' lives. You eventually get to a point where you're offered an assistance coach position, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so after the competitive coaching them at the Heat, our boys had gone over to the San Diego Soccer Club, mm-hmm. and so I was no longer coaching. It's been 4 or 5 years since they've been over there, and so I was no longer coaching them. But then a couple years ago, I started, when our boys were at Rincon Middle School, I coached the soccer team there for 2 years, the last 2 years. And so I got involved with coaching the middle school kids there. And then the head coach from Escondido High School, he knew that, you know, our oldest was going to be coming there soon. So he had reached out to me to see if I was interested in being his assistant coach. And so...
that was exciting.
Yeah.
Your son's going there? Now you get to potentially coach your son in high school.
Yes. And so he asked me, so before school or after school had started, they on Monday and Friday before school for about 8 weeks before the tryouts that were going to come up in November. They were doing some morning practices for anybody that wants to just go out there and train and get some practice before the actual tryouts. So I started going out there, and I was going through the process of applying for the position as well. And one morning I showed up there with Duke, and I was going into the gate there with Duke for the early 6:30 practice, from 6:30 to 8 o'clock before school. And the lady there said, "Excuse me, who are you?" And I said, she said, "Are you a parent or coach?" I said, "Well, I'm a parent, but hopefully I'm going to be Coach Mike's assistant." And she asked me my name, and I said, "Joseph." She said, "Joseph." I said, "Joseph Cardoza." And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to let you in here." She said, "I need you to go stand over there by your vehicle."
While your kid goes to practice?
Yeah. And I had there was a lot of emotions going through my mind at that time, because I had already been involved with all these youth for so many years. And now it was like, oh man, what's going on now? And it's because I was going through my background check. My record came up, and they had been notified the night before not to let me on campus because of my record.
So you're still incarcerated?
Yeah. And so she told me that the human resources had sent her an email and told her that even though your crime was 27 years ago, based upon the seriousness of it, we're not going to be able to have you on campus because you're a threat to the kids. And
even after this history of working with them
through the
stellar record as a coach.
I mean, I had assisted them when they were playing some Little League baseball as well. With the youth soccer at the middle school, I had to get approval to the Boys and Girls Club, which went through. And then now
they won't even let you watch your kid play on the soccer field.
I couldn't.
You can't be on campus.
No.
But you're not one to just sit back and take no for an answer.
No. This is, I've been denied many times before.
Time to go in front of the board again. Come here, Judge.
Yeah, so I went home, and gosh, I couldn't wait to get home. I was like, man, I'm going to get home and call and see what's going on. And I made a phone call, and the human resources for the Escondido Union High School District said, yes, because of your past after the background hearing, we're not going to be able to continue this process to offer you the position as assistant coach. And I didn't just stay quiet. I didn't just say, oh man, that's a bummer. I wish I could have done it. Maybe in the future I'll be able to do it. I said, is there anything that I can do? Can I go in for an interview? Can I provide any additional information? Every situation is different. Is there anything I could do that you guys can please reconsider and look further into this? And she was very nice, and she allowed me to share my story. She allowed me to share she asked, well, what happened, because they see a record.
Sure.
And that's all they see.
They don't see the details.
They have no idea what happened or how's your life been since then. And so she allowed me to share what I was involved in and how my life has been since then, and what I've been involved in today and continue to do. And she said, based upon what you've shared with me, what I'm going to do, I'm going to speak to a few people, and I'll give you a call this afternoon to let you know what we decide. And she called me that Friday afternoon, and she said, based upon everything that you shared, what we've decided is we're going to give you 5 business days to turn in your work history, your family, your rehabilitation, your education, any support letters you have, anything that you have that you could provide to us, and so we can look more into this. And so I had already done through the real estate. I had multiple letters of support. And so I knew what I needed to do again to provide and show them who I am, and that's not what defines me. And I turned.
You're a professional at this now.
And so, that following Friday, I turned in everything that they requested. I took it down to the school district. I gave it to them, and then they told me that they would let me know once they decide. I was getting a little anxious because 1 week passed by, 2 weeks passed by, and then the third week, and I still hadn't heard anything. And so about 3 weeks later, on a Friday, I was out in Phoenix with our boys because our oldest one had a soccer event out there. And I got a phone call. We were out by the pool area, we were just finishing up at the pool with his teammates and friends and having a good time. And I got a call from the same human resource director that had called me and denied me the first time. And she said, I'm just calling to let you know today I have some good news for you. And she says, the board, they had a hearing and they've decided to approve you and to offer you the position for assistant coach at high school for the soccer team. And it was a good feeling.
And your boys were there to celebrate with you?
Yeah. So it felt really good to hear that because, they were going to give me a chance to do something that I love to do. Because for me, it goes far beyond the soccer field. I want to help those kids for off the field. Because I remind our boys when I drop them off from school, make good decisions. Because one bad decision can affect so many people's life. And so that's a big part of it for me. Talking to those kids, just remind them, hey, make good decisions. Work on your grades. Those things. Even I love soccer. I want to help them in soccer, but more as human beings and their character and how they're developing for their future.
Raising boys into men
is
a difficult job.
Yeah.
And you have a story they can learn from. When did your boys find out about your past?
Yeah.
And what was that conversation like?
And that was just a couple years ago.
Okay.
Because I did not want to share it with them when they were 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I wanted to share it with them when I believe and felt that they were going to remember. They were going to understand a little bit more.
And you didn't want them to find out on the internet either.
And I didn't want them to find out on the internet. And I didn't want them to find out from anybody else, not because I was hiding it from them, but I wanted to be the first one to share it with them. And so about 2.5 years ago, we have a big yard at our house, and they're always back there kicking the ball. We have a couple goals, and they were back there practicing, and it was time. And I walked back there and put 3 chairs there for the 3 of us, and I just sat down with them, and I told them everything. I told them what I was involved in. I told them what I did. Things that I did, being drunk, being on steroids. I didn't hide nothing from them. I was open completely to them. And, there was tears shed. But it felt good to share it with them. Because, they would see pictures and they would ask, like my parents, when they would ask my parents, like, where's my dad at? They'd look at these old pictures. And for 10 years, I was gone. And so they would see these pictures or videos, and they'd ask questions like, where was my dad at?
Mm-hmm.
And, then they never told them, but they were getting older, so these questions were being brought up. And I thank God that I was the first one that got to share it with them, even though it hurt. And even though it wasn't easy, it felt really good to share it with them. And I remember at the end, they just said, Dad, we don't look at you like that. And so it was good. I just let them know, like, hey, just like I'm sharing with you guys be open with me. Talk to me. Don't be afraid. I don't care what you do wrong. We're all going to mess up. But I'd rather you just talk to me and share with me and not hold it in. Because I'm still going to love you the same. Maybe I'll be upset. I'll be disappointed. I won't agree with it. I won't like it. But I'm still going to love you guys. And so it was a good opportunity just to let them know, like, hey, we be open with each other, talk to each other. And no matter if we make bad decisions, we mess up, we still have that unconditional love for one another.
Yeah, too many fathers want to keep the Superman persona their whole life. And it's a wonderful thing when the boys or daughters, I had a son, when they're young and you're Superman.
Yeah.
It's a fun time. But vulnerability, showing them that dad made mistakes and consequences are real. We're always telling our kids about consequences. Not too many fathers show their own vulnerability to their kids. And I think you learn a lot.
Yes.
I think the kids learn a lot when their dad doesn't make himself feel, I'm always perfect.
Yeah.
I made mistakes. I dealt with the consequences. Life is serious.
Yeah.
But the positive side of it, Joseph, is that you're able to also show that you're a fighter, that society sets rules and you got to fight to achieve success in your own life. You're in jail, you had a felony. Sorry, you can't be a real estate agent. Well, I'm going to fight. And I'm going to get in front of a judge again, where I never want to do that again, but I'm going to do it. Hey, great, you're a great coach. You've got years and years of coaching. Oh, by the way, sorry, you got a felony. Get off the soccer field. You can't even watch your son play.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to fight. I'm not going to just take no for an answer. Too many people take no as the final saying, the final verdict. You know, most successes in life are lined up with hundreds of no's behind it. All you need is one yes. So you got to be brave. You got to show courage. You have to believe in yourself. And you did that. And that's a lesson that your kids get to see and hopefully take with them into manhood.
Yes.
And learn. They're going to be told no way more than they'll ever be told yes.
Yes.
But if you want it and you want to be successful and you want to win at life and not let society control your life, you got to be willing to take the rejection, but keep pushing forward until you get the yes.
Yes.
There's a way.
Yes.
And what an inspiration your story is. I'm so glad that you were able to come out and share it with everybody. We need more men like you taking time to train up boys and the youth to become good men. This is a tough society that we live in. I want you to share anybody out there who wants a really good, honest, authentic, caring real estate agent to represent them. I'm going to pitch for you, man, because I would hire you. I would want somebody honest with me. And in this real estate market today, things have changed so much. And to have somebody like you on their side would be fantastic. Do you have an email that you can share with anybody?
Yes, I do. So I have, it's realtor Joseph Cardoza at gmail.com and Joseph at pivotca.com. So those are my two email addresses for real estate.
Reach out to Joseph, guys, with questions. Things have changed as far as the realtor and the buyer-seller relationship. A lot of different hurdles. You want a professional on your side, but you don't want somebody who isn't on your side, who just has a fake smile.
Yeah.
This is the biggest purchase that they would ever do. I would trust you. And I think after hearing your story, I think people are really going to be moved by it and give you the yes that you so hard that you go after.
Yeah. And just another thing I wanted to include as I share with you is since 2014, I've been speaking at Respect Project. And
I read about that.
It's a project led by the San Diego Sheriff's Department, and it's for kids that are kind of making bad decisions and getting a little bit of trouble. And in 2014, they invited me to start speaking there. And so then those two sheriffs, Todd and Dustin, they wrote great letters of support for my real estate when I went to the board or before the judge. And they wrote great letters again for my high school position. And I enjoy speaking to those kids and sharing my testimony, my story with them. And for me personally, my faith, I always include the Lord in it, because without God, without His grace, this would not be possible.
He's been on your side.
Yeah.
Look at the people He's put in your life.
And one verse that I hold on to for me personally is Proverbs 3:5-6. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding in all your ways. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path." And I hold on to that. Just like all these doors and getting closed and slammed in my face and not giving up and saying, "Man, Lord, if please help me with this." And sometimes it's going to be no. And sometimes it's going to be wait, not yet. But, if it's meant to be, I believe that, it can happen. And so I'm just thankful for, even though I still face many obstacles in this life, and it's not always easy, and there's going to be more denials. I've learned and grown through a lot of the different things that I have gone through.
Well, Joseph, I love your story. Thanks for coming out. I know this will be a blessing and an inspiration to a lot of people.
I really appreciate you, Ryan, for inviting me and allowing me to talk and just share a little bit about my story and my life.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Real People, Real Life. Our passion is to have real conversations with real people who've made it. Real people who've made it, who did it on their own terms. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, catch us on Twitter or X at RPRL Podcast and on YouTube at Real People, Real Life Podcast.